Hey minions, this is StrifeCro with another set review. This time we're doing Saviors of Uldum, and we're going to be rating every card from 0 to 5 in increments of 0.5. Going to be starting with some Druid here, Untapped Potential. I feel like Druid is too much of a tempo class to really feel great about floating mana, even with the addition of some of the new cards. The ability, once it's activated, it is quite powerful, but you still need to build your deck a lot around it. This one's kind of weird because you're building your deck around the quest, not like to complete the quest, because all you need to do is not spend your mana, but your deck kind of needs to have the cards to benefit from the Syrian tier. I'd rate this card 2.5 out of 5. Not too amazing. Next, we're on Elise the Enlightened. I feel like it's kind of hard to combo. It's kind of hard to count out combo effects just because combo effects can be so powerful. Elise could activate some degenerate combos. But honestly, I don't feel like Singleton is really the best shell for combo decks. They generally value card draw consistency a lot. So it's really kind of like the wrong card in the wrong shell. The new Zephyr is also not quite as strong as Kazakis IMO. Even I'll get to that later when I review that one. Elise is great as a pure value generator, but tempo is king in this meta, in every meta. So I'm going to be rating Elise a 3 out of 5. Maybe one of the better cards at this effect, but still, it's not. I don't think it's too much of a game changer. Next, we're on a Nebusath Defender. This one is quite interesting. This is kind of a new and improved Arcane Golem for Druid. I'd much rather have a 3/5 with Taunt than a 4/4. There isn't any more Ultimate Infestations, but Overflow is even earlier, and you can often draw into Nebusath Defender with Overflow, draw 5 cards, and this can be one of them. I'd be rating this 3.5 out of 5. Next, we're on Crystal Merchant. Now we're talking. This card is sick even without a quest. You can basically trade, a mana for a card. You can float a mana for a card. Has decent stats. 1/4 is hard to kill. Kind of the same stats as Armorsmith. Especially for a minion that your opponent really wants to remove. 4 health is quite a bit for a 2 cost minion. Druid's definitely getting some of its drawing class identity left back. We haven't had very many good draw cards for Druid in a while, and I think it's one of the things that used to make Druid strong. I'd be rating this 4 out of 5. Next one, Overflow. I feel like Overflow is insane. This is a much better sprint for Druid. You can trade your minions and then Overflow and heal them. And I doubt very many Druids running Overflow are going to care about healing your opponent. It's not quite a 5 like Ultimate Infestation was, but let's be real, we can never reprint Ultimate Infestation. This one I rate 4.5 out of 5. Next we're on Hidden Oasis. Neither side here is good enough. Relies on quest to be good, which sadly isn't that great itself. It's not even that great. This card is a 2 out of 5 for me. Garden Gnome. One of the downsides of this is Overflow can't draw into this and play it on the same turn. You kind of have to have Overflow in your hand and then play Garden Gnome, not the other way around. Mid-range Druid is... I can see mid-range Druid coming back as kind of like a tokeny drawly archetype with a lot of survivability. Could be rating Garden Gnome 3 out of 5. It's pretty a decent card. It's quite a powerful 4-drop if you can get it off. There should be a lot of synergy with both Overflow and Twin Spell, Treant Generator, 8 mana dude. Next, we're on Oasis Surger. I feel like flexibility is king here for a removal type spell. You can either kill 2 small minions or you can kill 1 mid-range minion. It either comes into play as 2 3/3s with Rush or 1 5/5 with Rush. Either way you look at it, 5 mana for either of those effects is quite powerful. You can also just not use the Rush often and sometimes just develop, and even just raw stats wise, 3/3 times 2 or 5/5, it's quite decent either way. I can see this being very bonkers against board control decks, especially Shaman, which I'll get to when we get to Shaman. I think Shaman is is back a lot. This also plays our mirror entity quite well. You can play it as a 3/3. One of the problems that druids often had in the past is it had kind of a hard time playing around mirror entity as the mana costs get bigger and bigger. Druid often was ramping into bigger minions. This is like a big minion that's not weak to mirror entity. And I actually think that when we get to mage, we'll explain that later. But I think secret mage is back. 3.5 out of 5. Next we're in bees. This one is tied for the best druid card of this expansion for me. It very likely goes into every druid deck. It's a flexible removal that also develops the board, and it has some blowout scenarios of killing 0 attack minions or with some knife juggler cult master shenanigans. It's also just great where you can summon bees after and say Power of the Wild or Savage Roar, things like that. The possibilities are really endless, and even the floor of this card, 3 mana to deal 4 damage to minion like a Shadow Bolt, is already quite a playable card. This is 4.5 out of 5 for me. It's tied for the best card for Druid with Overflow. Worthy Expedition. This card is maybe not worthy enough to put in your deck. With all these options, I don't see Auctioneer being a thing for Druid. I really only see this as Auctioneer food and is barely worthy enough for the quest. 2 out of 5. All right, next. Actually, let's talk a little bit about Druid before we move on to Hunter, because now that we've rated every card, I want to kind of talk about some of these decks. I really can see mid-range kind of tokeny Druid coming back. It kind of reminds me of the old Druid with ramping into Ultimate Infestation. Overflow is not quite as strong. Spreading Plague is no longer a thing, so you kind of have to keep up in tempo. But I do feel like Druid can possibly do that. We have Garden Gnome, Oasis Surger. One of the things about Druid is a lot of these really strong cards can all go into the same deck. Bees, let's see, bees, we have Garden Gnome, we have Oasis Surger, we have Anubisath Defender, we have Crystal Merchant, and we have Overflow. I can realistically see all of these cards making it into a mid-range kind of like tokeny deck with a lot of survivability. There is still the shield block card for Druid that gives them mana, or that gives them armor for every card in your hand. It's quite possible to maintain a pretty big hand size with Overflow. A lot of the draw kind of solves Druid's problem of having maybe too many situational cards with like swipes and wraths and all these like buff cards like Power of the Wild. Now we have enough kind of like draw to have a little bit of everything in our hand, a little bit of survivability, a little bit of development, a little bit of removal, a lot of healing. I can see this being a really solid deck all around versus every archetype. So I'm pretty excited for Druid in the next expansion. I've rated these numbers based on my prediction of how the standard meta will shape up in Saviors of Uldum, let's say on HS Replay. So, for example, I'm not... At least the Enlightened is obviously going to be one of the best cards in a Highlander deck, but we have to consider that if Highlander deck is not one of the stronger Druid decks, then I won't be rating Elise very highly. So we'll kind of like rate every card kind of based on its own class if possible. So like maybe the best deck of that class in HS Replay or something like that, like the competitive decks. All right, let's move to Hunter now. All right, first we have the quest, Unseal the Vault. 20 minions is quite a lot, but some spells can summon quite a few at a time. Unleash the Hounds and Swarm of Locusts become quite scary after quest completion. The main plus side of this card is that the cards that are used to complete the quest are also amazing post-quest. So you have similar cards, say Unleash the Hounds and Storm of Locusts. They both help you complete the quest, and once the quest is done, you still have these other cards in your hand. You still have the second Unleash, you still have the second Locusts, and they actually become quite scary. Starting 1 mana and 1 card down is always kind of rough for a class like Hunter. I'm still rating this a 2 out of 5. Next, we're on Dino Tamer Bran. I really can't see the downside of this card being mitigated by the upside enough. I do feel like the new Zephyr isn't as good as Kazakis, and I don't feel like Hunter will be a singleton class at all. It's just not really the type of class that wants to dilute the consistency of their curve being kind of like that as one of the Hunter's main things already. And it's not strong enough to warrant that. 2 out of 5. Next run, Wild Bloodstinger. This is a decent sized body and it actually can pick off most minions that it summons, but I can really see the unpredictability killing this card from being super competitive. I don't feel like Hunter needs combo deck disruption because, well, unless Control Hunter is a thing, which I don't believe it is. So in this kind of, like, Hunter doesn't need something to disrupt combo decks, it just needs to kill them. 2.5 out of 5. Also, just to add a little bit more to that, the stats aren't big enough. You can get a Boulder Fist over 6-7. This is a tiny bit bigger. And the Battle Cry is kind of a wash. I would say it's good, but it's not like a great effect. All right, Scarlet Web Weaver. Now here we're talking. This is what, like, if you think about it, it's a 1 mana 5/5. It's only in the best cases that it's a 1 mana 5/5 and only after turn 6. But the tempo this card offers is amazing, especially in multiples. Romhikin Welltamer has a lot of synergy here if you get duplicate Scarlet Web Weavers, and can also synergize with the other big beasts like Tundra Rhino, Savannah Highmane. I can definitely see this being really strong. 3.5 out of 5 for me. Swarm of Locusts. I think this is the best Hunter card of this expansion. This one took a little bit for me to evaluate. So I think Hyena, Timberwolf, and Direwolf Alpha are all really popular cards. I think this is likely better than Unleash the Beast because of the front-loaded tempo effect here. Oftentimes you've seen like mid-range Beast Hunters cutting multiple copies of Unleash the Beast because, you know, what Hunter wants is tempo, and sure, like the twin spell part of that gives them a lot of sustainability, but really tempo is what Hunter wants, and I can see it just being like a more front-loaded effect here. This is definitely my pick for the best Hunter card. I see a lot of cool beast combos with this. Next we have Hyena Alpha. I can see Hunter getting a little bit of everything in this expansion. They're getting a little bit of like Highlander synergy, a little bit of beast stuff, a little bit of secret stuff, you know, a little bit of secrets. I think it's a little bit too diluted. I don't think Hunter's getting enough secret stuff to really push the archetype. But it is pretty strong with this secret up. I think it's 3 out of 5, just because of the archetype not being super amazing. Next, we're on Romhikin Welltamer. This is a nice alternative for Master's Call and allows non-pure beast decks a way to build hybrid synergy. By hybrid, I mean some beasts and some non-beasts. I think it's probably worse than Master's Call. I'm only going to rate this 3 out of 5 because it has so much competition with Master's Call, and from what I can see, I'd just much rather go all beasts. Next we're on Hunter's Pack. This is a ton of value for one card. It seems best in Secret Hunter. It has a lot of synergy with Zul'jin, but might overdraw. It's a small consideration there. It creates a lot of value from outside the game, making Zul'jin Hunter even more of a grind. The trick to playing this is really how to recover tempo after. It's most comparable with Master's Call, where Master's Call could often draw into Timberwolf, Springpaw combos, and Hyena combos. Whereas for Hunter's Pack, since they're getting a lot of like random cards outside the game, it's going to be hard for you to take tempo back after making the 3 mana play of, you know, the negative tempo here. All in all, it's still a strong card. And I think it's likely best in secret decks where, say, if you take the tempo loss here, you have Explosive, Trap, and some of these secrets to come back from, and Unleash the Hounds, things like that. So 3.5 out of 5 for me. Next we're on Desert Spear, our first weapon we've reviewed. There's, quite frankly, a lot of competition in the 3-drop slot for Hunter. It's very strong though. I think the turn after Spear is played for Beast Hunter, it's quite scary because you can have a lot of, say, Timberwolf, Unleash the Hound stuff. Not Unleash, let's say Timberwolf, Hyena, all these things can come the turn after Desert Spear. And it's kind of effectively like you're leaving up a 1/1 beast, and we all know how scary that is. Yeah, the only thing that's really holding this back is the 3 mana. If this was like a 2 mana with like 1/2, maybe it would be a lot better. I think 3 out of 5 because of the competition in 3-drop slot. Next, we're on Pressure Plate. This is the last center card that we're reviewing this expansion. This is our first secret too. I think it's a good fire and forget secret. It either stays or does something, but because oftentimes you're destroying enemy minions as they come out, and because the decks that run a lot of spells might be different than the decks that run a lot of minions. I can often kind of see this as a rat trap kind of thing, where it'll stay up for a bit and later eventually proc, making it really good to play with Hyena Alpha and Blood Scalp Strategist. You kind of want secrets to sometimes stay up because of that. So I think this is 3.5 out of 5. It adds, also anytime you add a new secret, it adds to the range. This is kind of like a poker term, but basically anytime you play a secret, your opponent kind of has to go, if they care about playing around the secret at all, which usually the effects are quite strong enough where they should be caring about it, then they kind of have to narrow secrets down one by one. It's definitely a judgment thing during game, but it really increases the range that secret hunters can play. When you think of like what a deck can do, oftentimes each deck has, say, a different range of plays that it can do, and for secret decks you generally have to count for every secret in that range. So it adds quite a bit to Secret Hunter and to any secret deck when you just add any kind of new secret. It's always kind of high impact cards in that sense. Let's talk about Hunter now as a whole class. I do feel like Beast Hunter is almost certainly going to oust out Mech Hunter. There's not any mechs for Hunters this expansion, and mechs probably need to rotate out. It's kind of getting to boring. We're all kind of done with mechs. Beasts are actually Hunters' bread and butter as the years go on. Beasts will always have all the support. I see a lot of synergy for Beast Hunter, not really a lot of synergy for this Highlander Hunter here. There's quite a decent amount of synergy for Secret Hunter as well. I'm under the personal opinion that the quest will bust for Hunter as well, because it's kind of too... It hurts Hunter a lot to pass up the 1-drop, first of all. Then to 20 minions summoning takes quite a long time, and Hunter is one of those classes with not a lot of comeback potential once they get behind on board. That's not necessarily true because of like Unleash the Hounds, things like that, but what it is Hunter can't take a lot of damage when they're behind because of the lack of heals as well. So even if they can come back, even like one turn of tempo advantage that you have against Hunter is generally too much damage for them to take, just because they're kind of a class with no heals as well, and their comeback mechanics are still pretty limited. So yeah, mostly I think Beast Hunter still. That's all for our first review video. We will do probably two classes at a time for this, and then probably all the neutrals at once. Thanks for watching. I will be back next time with another video.